Mayor Walsh recently updated the city's plan for response to climate change. It's a long-range plan that calls for cutting emissions of greenhouse gases by 20% in the next 5 years and 80% by the year 2050. To talk about the plan is our guest, the mayor's Chief of Environment, Energy and Open Space, Austin Blackmon. Thank you very much for being with us, Austin.
Thanks for having me.
You come to Boston from work in San Francisco, so how does that get you ready for this new assignment?
Well, the work that I did in San Francisco was very similar to a lot of the work that we're going to be doing here in Boston. So in my last role, I was the interim head of project finance at a firm called Terra Verde Renewable Partners. And at that firm, we spent, most of our clients were cities, schools, water districts that wanted to do solar projects or building efficiency projects. So that translates directly over to a lot of the work that we want to do as a city to lead by example as we're implementing some of the key components of the climate action plan.
Well, in California, they worry about running out of water. In Boston, we worry about water washing over us, at least in some parts of the city. So the plan in mind here looks at that, doesn't it?
Of course, there's a lot of issues that we have to worry about in terms of climate change and sea level rise. With even our most recent blizzard that we went through, that's now the 5th storm in the past 2.5 years where we've had a near miss for a 100-year flooding event. That's a serious concern that the mayor takes very, very seriously. He's leading climate preparedness summit that's going to be occurring this April. That's going to be a regional summit we're going to be working with the metropolitan area planning council to organize. So we're very concerned about that as well.
I know even before the current administration, we saw things changing for large-scale developments. We do have some of those right near the waterfront, but there are other places threatened by rising sea levels, and you know, these are ordinary Boston homes. People don't have a lot of money to upgrade them. So what about people like that?
Well, it's a very critical part of the climate action plan as well, learning lessons from cities like New Orleans as well as New York City that have gone through serious storm events to make sure that the city's response is equitable from a social perspective, to make sure that all of our citizens are protected and have access to evacuation routes and critical infrastructure as well.
What about motivating people? Because I think one of the really sad things about responding to climate change is that you can do things here to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but your climate is going to be affected by things happening all over the world. So can people really want to pitch in that way if they know that?
I think so. I think that from my own perspective, knowing that this is a problem and knowing that everyone in the world contributes to it doesn't then mean that you shouldn't do something on your own to take action. And that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about these issues. It's an opportunity that everyone can make a small difference and everybody can help not only their individual communities, but it's a global issue, as you mentioned.
Well, talking about housing, because housing is a big source of these emissions, even though we don't often think of it that way. But I guess there's also a built-in benefit for owners, because if they can reduce some of the energy costs, you know, that's going to help with their budget.
Absolutely. And doing something as simple as turning up or down your thermostat depending on the season by 1 degree and taking efforts to do that can make a huge difference, not only from a greenhouse gas perspective, but on someone's electric bill as well. So there are tons of small things that you can do, including that, just to make a big difference from the stance of your own pocketbook.
And solar panels, we used to think of that as a costly experiment. Now, maybe not quite as costly.
Right, and there are lots of different programs that not only from an incentives basis, but also financing structures where instead of purchasing this relatively expensive equipment, you can go into a power purchase agreement and you just buy the power that is generated from the system. And so that can be an attractive solution for homeowners or businesses that don't have the upfront capital to put in place but are interested in going solar and increasing their use of renewable energy.
Now, one of the goals being talked about here is zero waste. I know that's a little hard to picture for many of us, but why is it so important to get down to zero with that?
Well, for multiple different reasons. In terms of, from a sustainability perspective, increasing our ability to take things out of the waste stream and put them back to use and repurpose them through recycling programs and through composting programs. That's certainly an important thing to do. We've got lots of challenges here in the city of Boston in order to get to that place, but we have to start the process and start the planning process of how we're gonna get there.
Of course, another thing that contributes to the emissions are motor vehicles. So you've got to have some thinking about that.
Absolutely. And again, leading by example is something that the mayor is very passionate about. And I think that it's important not only for us to look at what our residents and our business owners can do, but also what the city can do. So we've got pilot programs in place right now where we're looking at alternative fuels that have lower emissions to lower the city's carbon footprint as well.
Well, I know one of the more controversial ideas is setting aside some city on-street spaces for car sharing services. So, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I live here all the time, I drive, now I have this to worry about. What about that kind of a conflict?
I think that in order for us to hit our goals, everything's on the table. And in terms of car sharing, you know, there are certainly benefits and drawbacks to that.
What about the process here? Because this is a long-range plan. I know it's going to be updated again. So how do you keep people in the loop exactly?
Well, we've got a great website where, and again, one of the mayor's priorities and one of the reasons why I wanted to come work for him is that he really believes in transparent government. And we want to keep all of our citizens as up to date as possible as we make progress in implementing this plan. So on our website, plan.renovate.gov, you can absolutely see our progress, and we'll be updating that as quickly as possible.
Now, one other feature here is urban agriculture, fresh food in the schools. And I know it's great for health, but why is that so important to the environmental challenge?
Well, for multiple reasons. One of them being if you are not using local sustainable food, generally it's coming from long distances away, and obviously the greenhouse gas emissions that are associated with that can be a big challenge. Also, if they're not using sustainable methods to produce food, then you can also run into issues with using too much fertilizer and contaminating groundwater. So there are a various number of reasons why urban sustainable food methods are advantageous.
And getting more trees in the city, I know they look nice, you know, the shade's nice when you're right under one, but other than that, why are trees so important?
Trees in our open space plan and trying to increase the canopy in the city has a lot of benefits. Beyond making the city look nicer, obviously it helps us capture some of the greenhouse gases that are emitted. It also helps regulate the temperature within the city as well to help it make it a more breathable place. Also, the more open space that we have and the more when we do experience sea level rise or flooding events, the more places where we have give water the ability to drain through our city, including through our open spaces, you know, more of a canopy is absolutely advantageous in that way as well. We
should finally have one more reminder. People want to keep up with what's going on with the plan. They should go to, what's the website again?
Plan.grenovateboston.org.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Austin Blackmon.